Have you ever wondered what happens to a man when he's been single for too long? Does he become stronger, more independent, and completely comfortable with himself? Or does he slowly fall into loneliness, emotional detachment, and struggle to reconnect with others? Psychologists have explored the long-term effects of singleness on men, and the results are fascinating. Some men thrive in their solitude. They develop a strong sense of self, discover new passions, and become deeply independent. Others, however, experience something different: a gradual loss of social confidence, a struggle to form deep emotional connections, and even difficulty committing when the opportunity arises. So what really happens to a man the longer he stays single? Let's explore the psychological impact of prolonged singleness and the hidden effects it has on men's minds. Behaviors and relationships. Chapter 1: The initial phase. Freedom and self-discovery. At first, being single can feel like freedom. There's no pressure to check in with a partner, no compromises to make, and no emotional conflicts to navigate. Many men use this time to focus on personal growth, career advancements, and hobbies that bring them fulfillment. The stage is often empowering. Men who have been in relationships before me find themselves rediscovering interests they once put aside. They may travel, engage in fitness routines, or develop new skills. Psychologists call this phase self-expansion period, where men explore their identity without external influence. But this phase doesn't last forever. As time goes on, the effects of prolonged singleness start to take shape. Chapter 2: Strengthened independence or emotional detachment. One of the most noticeable changes in long-term single man is their increased independence. They become highly self-sufficient, learning how to rely solely on themselves. For emotional and financial stability, they make their own rules. They control their own schedule. They develop an unshakable sense of autonomy that many find liberating. But here's the catch: this level of independence can sometimes make it difficult to let someone new in. As time passes, some men unknowingly build emotional walls that prevent them from forming deep connections. They become so accustomed to their routine and way of life that any disruption, even in the form of love, can feel like an inconvenience. This doesn't happen to everyone. Some men are able to balance independence with emotional openness. But for others, the longer they stay single, the harder it becomes to welcome intimacy into their lives. Chapter 3: Social skills sharpened or diminished. There's a common belief that if a man is single for too long, he loses his social skills. But is that really true? It depends. Some men use their time alone to enhance their social confidence. They become more comfortable in their own skin, learning how to engage in conversations without relying on a relationship as a social safety net. They develop strong friendships, become more self-aware, and improve their ability to communicate. However, others may struggle with social reintegration. If a man spends too much time in solitude, he might begin to avoid social situations altogether. Over time, this can lead to social anxiety, awkwardness in conversations, and a fear of vulnerability. This is why some men who have been single for too long find dating extremely challenging. When they decide to return to the scene, it's not that they lack attractiveness or compatibility. It's that they've forgotten how to navigate emotional connection in a romantic setting. Chapter 4: The psychological impact of loneliness. Not all single men feel lonely, but for those who do, loneliness can have serious psychological effects. Studies show that chronic loneliness can lead to increased stress and anxiety, lower self-esteem, depression, unhealthy coping mechanisms such as excessive drinking or overworking. When a man goes too long without deep emotional intimacy, his brain begins to adapt. The desire for closeness doesn't necessarily disappear, but it becomes buried under layers of self-reliance. And when loneliness becomes a habit, some men may find it easier to stay alone than to seek connection. Chapter 5. Relationship Challenges After Long-Term Singleness. Here's something most people don't think about. The longer a man stays single, the harder it can be to build a lasting relationship later on. Why? Because long-term singleness often leads to deeply ingrained habits. A man who has lived alone for years might struggle to adjust to sharing his space. He might be so used to making decisions on his own. That compromise feels unnatural. Emotional vulnerability might feel like a risk rather than a reward. Some men even develop a fear of commitment, not because they don't want love, but because they fear losing the independence they've built. It's not uncommon for long-term single men to experience self-sabotage. And relationships, they might unconsciously pull away when things get serious. Or they might convince themselves that they're better off alone, rather than face the unknown challenges of a committed relationship. Chapter 6. Does being single for too long have benefits? Of course, it's not all bad. Being single for an extended period also comes with powerful advantages. It allows men to deeply understand themselves without external influence. It gives them time to build a strong foundation for personal success. It helps them develop self-reliance and emotional stability. Many men who have been single for a long time become excellent partners when they finally do enter a relationship. Why? Because they've had time to grow. They've learned what they truly want. They enter relationships from a place of wholeness rather than neediness. Conclusion. The final takeaway. So what's the truth? The longer a man has been without a relationship, the more he changes for better or worse. Some men become stronger, wiser, and more independent. Others struggle with emotional detachment, loneliness, or social reintegration. But at the end of the day, it's not about how long you've been single. It's about how you use that time. A man who spends his singleness in personal growth, self-discovery, and emotional awareness will emerge stronger and more prepared for love. A man who isolates himself, avoids emotional connection, and lets loneliness take over may find it difficult to reconnect later. The key is balance, whether single or in a relationship. The most important thing is self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to grow. What do you think? Does being single for too long make relationships harder, or does it prepare a man for the right one? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep psychological insights.